When out in wooded areas, flipping large and moist pieces of wood to try and find animals underneath is often the best way to find some really interesting creatures. We just now got to this location. This is right at the entrance of the trail, and already we have this really crazy looking millipede. A closer look at this millipede shows it's definitely in the family Xistodesmidae, which is one of the flat-backed families of millipedes. If I had to guess, it's probably in the genus Sigmoria, but no matter what kind of millipede this is, that striking black and bright red coloration is absolutely beautiful. We don't get many of these very thick, strong-bodied, flat-backed millipede species down in Florida, so it's amazing to see them pretty often actually here in South Carolina. I was about to flip this big piece of wood, but I noticed that this pygmy grasshopper was perched right on top of it. This appears to be a female black-sided pygmy grasshopper, which is named after the striking black stripe on the side of the thorax of the males. Members of this genus Titigidia are probably the most common pygmy grasshoppers in these kinds of wooded areas. Those are the larvae of the horned passelis beetle, which is one of the very few beetles that are actually social. The larvae all grow up in close proximity to one another and actually receive parental care. Based on just how many larvae are underneath this log alone, there's probably a whole bunch more of these little larvae inside the wood itself, as well as probably quite a few adults in there as well. It's also pretty interesting that this colony of passelis beetles are allowing these two giant stag beetles to be living under here as well. Hopefully this large amount of larvae here is a good sign that hopefully with some more flipping I could get my hands on an adult horned passelis. But for now, this huge population of larvae is a great enough find for me. Now, the only reason I'm taking out this stag beetle is because I couldn't get it to come off my finger. Stag beetles have a really good grip on their toes, and it's really hard to take them off your hand once one is crawling on you. It's also really cool to get a nice, good close-up look at this species that I don't see too often. But I'm just going to put her back underneath this log right now so she could keep living her normal life under this log. Now finally, after some more flipping, this is an adult horned passelis beetle. Now you can see it's a little smaller than that giant stag beetle and is all black. The reason this is called the horned passelis is because from this side view, you could see that hook-shaped structure coming out of its top of its head. Now, like I said before, this beetle is super interesting because they breed in these large social colonies, and because of that, they've actually developed some sort of a communication system. It wasn't doing it as much for me as I would have wanted to, so none of the audio came out, but they can make a bunch of different squeaking sounds by rubbing different parts of their body, and different kinds of squeaks mean different kinds of things, which is really interesting. The pale-bordered field cockroach is an unusually beautifully colored cockroach that is quite common to find under logs. This one, I managed to flip under a log, but it flew up onto this leaf where I was taking this video. The mixture of bright red, black, and white coloration on this species is unmistakable. Such a cool looking cockroach. This six-spotted tiger beetle right here does not live under logs, but this one was crawling around right next to a log. Now, in Florida, I'm used to seeing tiger beetles in kind of scrubby areas and sandy areas, but the six-spotted tiger beetle is actually quite common in forests and wooded areas. This species is very well recognizable by its entirely metallic green body, except for some white spots at the tips of the wings, caps, or elytra. This right here is my lifer, bold jumping spider, which is a member of the genus Phidippus, which has some absolutely massive jumping spiders. I'm used to seeing jumping spiders be quite small, but these Phidippus can get absolutely huge. This one is very rotund. This species is a extremely variable species in terms of color pattern. This all-black color morph with little orange spots and metallic green colored mandibles is quite common in South Carolina, although they could also have those orange spots replaced with white spots, and some individuals even have many more white patches on them, so a very variable looking species, but overall pretty recognizable because of how round and sturdy looking they are. I'm honestly not too sure of a single way to tell this from the very similar regal jumping spider, except for looking at kind of the regional color morphs. The opiliones, or harvestmen, are a very hard group to identify, but I do think this species is my lifer Hydrobunus fusiformis. That seems to be a pretty common species in areas of leaf litter along the wooded areas under logs in the Carolinas and the surrounding states. The legs are a little shorter than what I'm used to seeing on harvestmen, and the bases of the legs are pretty thick. The habitat preference, range, overall dull brownish color, as well as the weird spindly appearance of the legs, plus those thickened bases of the legs, is what's leading me to thinking that it is that species. Either way, flipping a harvestman over under a piece of wood is always a fun experience, and letting them walk around your hand just feels kind of weird because they're so lightweight. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll love this video where I find a species of grasshopper that had not been ever photographed live in the field until I found them. I find a bunch of other cool stuff in this video too, so I bet you'll love it when you check it out.